Be me, Lisa. Have an older brother, Liam. Only a couple of years between us. This whole story isn't really about me, but I had a front row seat for the entire train wreck and what came after. You see guys talk about this kind of thing online, but it's different when it's your own family. Let's go back a few years. My brother was 19. He was a classic good guy. I don't mean that as an insult. It's just what he was. Always did his homework, never got in trouble, helped my mom with groceries without being asked. He was tall, but always kind of hunched over, like he was apologizing for taking up space. Always had this gentle, kind of goofy smile on his face. The kind of guy who'd stop to help someone pick up their dropped papers in a crowded hallway. And he was hopelessly, completely in love with his high school sweetheart, Madison. They'd been together since sophomore year, I think. To him, she was it. The sun, the moon, the stars, all that stuff. He spent all his money from his part-time job on her. Concert tickets, dinners at places he couldn't afford, a stupidly expensive necklace for her birthday. My parents liked her enough. She was pretty, always polite to them. I never fully trusted her. There was something in her eyes, a kind of calculation, like she was always aware of who was watching, always playing a part. But Liam couldn't see it. He saw a goddess. The story starts when he decides to enlist. It was a huge shock to everyone. He wasn't a military-type guy at all. He told us he wanted to do something meaningful, to get skills, to build a future. But when he talked to Madison about it, it was all for us. I'm doing this so I can take care of you. This will set us up for life. She seemed to love that, the idea of him going off to become a man for her. The day he left for basic training is burned into my memory. We were all at the train station. It was one of those gray, overcast mornings that makes everything feel more dramatic. The air smelled like wet concrete and diesel fumes. My mom was trying not to cry. My dad was giving him a series of firm, awkward pats on the back. Liam barely noticed them. His entire universe was focused on Madison. He was holding both of her hands, staring into her eyes like he was trying to memorize her face. She was putting on a world-class performance, tears streaming down her cheeks, telling him how she couldn't live without him. She swore up and down she would wait. No matter how long it takes, I'll be right here, she kept saying. He gave her this little silver locket. He'd saved up for weeks to buy it. Inside was a tiny, dorky picture of him. He put it around her neck, and she clutched it like it was the most precious thing in the world. The whistle blew. It was time to go. He gave her one last, long hug. He whispered something in her ear. Then he hugged my mom, shook my dad's hand, and gave me a quick squeeze. "Look after them," he said. He got on the train and stood at the window. He didn't wave at us. He only had eyes for Madison. As the train pulled away, he pressed his hand to the glass, and she pressed hers back from the platform. It was like a scene out of some cheesy romance movie. We watched until the train was just a dot in the distance. The second it was out of sight, Madison's tears stopped. Instantly. She sniffled once, gave my mom a quick, tight hug, and said she had to get to class. I watched her walk away, and she was already pulling out her phone. The first week, he could only send letters. We got 3 of them. 2 were for Madison, 1 was for all of us. The one for us was short. "It's tough. The food is okay. Hope you're all well." I saw one of the letters he sent to her because he asked me to drop it off. It was thick, like 10 pages. He probably detailed every second of his miserable existence in boot camp and somehow related it back to her. Then the phone calls started. They could only call on Sundays for a short amount of time. The first call came in, and my mom answered. She talked for a minute, then passed it to my dad, then to me. When I got the phone, Liam sounded exhausted, but happy. "Hey, Liz, how are you?" "I'm good. How are you holding up? It's fine. It's hard, but it's fine. Hey, listen, did you talk to Madison? How is she? Is she okay? That was the whole conversation. All he wanted was a report on her. I told him she was fine, that she missed him. I was lying, or at least stretching the truth. I'd texted her and gotten a one-word reply a day later. The second Sunday, same thing. He barely asked about my parents or me. It was all Madison. Did she get my letter? Did she like it? Did she talk about me? He sounded like a little kid, desperate for validation. I started to feel this pit in my stomach. This was not going to end well. I'd see Madison around town sometimes. She was always with her friends, laughing, going to parties. She was still wearing the locket, but it felt more like an accessory than a promise. The third week. This was about 2 weeks and a bit after he left. My phone rang late one evening, a blocked number. I knew it was him. He must have earned some extra phone privileges or something. I answered, "Hello?" Silence on the other end for a few seconds. Just the sound of faint static-filled breathing. "Liam? Is that you? Are you okay?" His voice finally came through, but it was wrong. It was thin and hollow and brittle. "Lisa. What is it? What happened?" He took a shaky breath. She sent me a text." I didn't need him to tell me. I already knew. "What did it say, Liam?" I asked, my voice softer than I intended. He was quiet for a long moment. I could hear him trying to control his breathing. Then he read it to me, his voice cracking on every word. "Sorry. I can't wait." That was it. 5 words. 5 words to end 2 years. 5 words to shatter my brother's entire world. The silence after he said it was the loudest thing I've ever heard. I didn't know what to say. "I'm sorry." Felt stupid and useless. "Liam," I started. I heard a sound like a choked sob, quickly swallowed. "I gotta go," he whispered, and the line went dead. I just stood there in the kitchen, holding my phone. I felt this wave of pure, cold rage wash over me. I typed out a message to Madison. "What the hell did you do?" She replied almost instantly. It was for the best. "It's too hard. He'll understand." I wanted to scream at her, to tell her what a coward she was, to tell her that she just broke the kindest person I knew via text message while he was going through hell hundreds of miles away. But I didn't. I just typed back, "No, he won't." And then I blocked her number. The next few months were the worst. He didn't get kicked out of basic, which honestly surprised me. I don't know how he functioned. His Sunday calls became exercises in misery. He would call, and I would be the only one he'd want to talk to. He didn't want to talk to our parents because he didn't want them to hear him break. With me, he didn't have to be strong. He'd speak in a low voice, clearly hiding in a corner somewhere so his platoon couldn't hear him. And he would just ask why, over and over. What did I do wrong, Lisa? Was it because I joined the army? I did it for her. I wrote her every single day. I told her I loved her. What more could I have done? Was I not good enough? Am I boring? I tried to reason with him. I told him that this wasn't on him, that she was selfish and weak. It was like talking to a brick wall. He had placed her on this pedestal, and her leaving didn't knock her off it. It just meant he wasn't worthy of being up there with her. He was convinced he was the problem. I could hear the drill sergeants screaming in the background sometimes. I couldn't imagine having your heart ripped out while someone is screaming at you to do more push-ups. The letters he sent home were even worse. They weren't angry. They were just full of pain. The pages were sometimes wrinkled, and I knew it was because he'd been crying while writing. His handwriting, usually so neat, was a jagged mess. He'd fill pages just dissecting their entire relationship, looking for the one mistake he must have made. Remember that time I was late to pick her up for the movies? Maybe that's when she started to doubt me. I should have bought her that other dress she wanted for prom. The blue one. She looked happier in the blue one. It was insane, pathetic, and utterly heartbreaking all at once. He was torturing himself, replaying every memory and recasting himself as the villain. In one letter, he wrote something that I'll never forget. They're teaching us how to break down a rifle and put it back together in the dark. I think my heart is like that now. Someone took it apart, and I've forgotten how to reassemble it. This went on for what felt like an eternity, probably about 2 or 3 months. Every call was the same cycle of pain and confusion. Our parents were worried sick. They knew something was wrong, but Liam would just give them one-word answers. I'm fine. They'd ask me what was going on, and I'd have to lie or downplay it. He's just having a tough time adjusting. I felt like I was the sole keeper of his agony. Then, sometime in the fall, things started to change. It wasn't a sudden shift. It was gradual, like ice forming on a pond. First, he stopped mentioning her name. One Sunday, he called, and I was braced for the usual interrogation of his own soul. But he just asked how I was, how Mom and Dad were. Then he started talking about his training, not complaining about it, just stating facts. We did a 10-mile ruck march today. My time was good. I qualified as an expert marksman on the rifle range. The tone was different. It wasn't emotional. It was flat, detached, report-like. The week after that, he told me about one of the guys in his unit who was constantly messing up, crying at night about his girlfriend back home. The old Liam would have sympathized. He would have felt that guy's pain, but what he said on the phone was cold. He's a liability. His feelings are making him weak, and his weakness puts the rest of us at risk. He needs to fix it or get out. I was so taken aback I didn't know what to say. That's a little harsh, don't you think? It's not harsh, he replied, his voice level. It's the reality of the situation. The mission comes first. Your feelings don't matter. The pain wasn't gone. I realized it had just changed. It had burned away all the softness, all the self-pity. What was left was something hard and sharp, a cold anger. It was like the army had taken his broken heart, melted it down, and forged it into a weapon. The letters changed too. They became shorter, more infrequent. No more talk about feelings or the past. They were about his goals, making squad leader, getting the highest score in his physical fitness test. He wrote about discipline as if it were a religion. Discipline is the only thing you can rely on, one letter said. It's there when motivation fails. It's there when you're tired or hurt or sad. You just follow the training. You do the job. That's all there is. He was rebuilding himself, but the blueprints were from a military manual, not from a human heart. He graduated from his initial training and moved on to his advanced schooling. We got a picture of him from his graduation day. My mom put it on the mantelpiece. It was jarring to look at. The old pictures of him showed a smiling, slightly awkward kid. This picture showed a man. He was standing in his dress uniform, perfectly straight. His jaw was set. His eyes, which used to be so warm and open, were narrowed and focused. They looked right through the camera. There was no trace of the boy who left from that train station. He looked dangerous. Not in a bad way, but in a way that screamed, "Do not mess with me." My dad looked at the photo and said, "The Army's made a man out of him." I just nodded, but I thought to myself, no. Madison broke a boy, and the Army gave him the tools to build a man from the pieces. Over the next year or so, his transformation solidified. The calls were brief and to the point. He'd check in, make sure we were okay, give us a quick update, and that was it. No small talk, no emotion. He became incredibly competent. He excelled at everything he did. He learned a new language for his job. He was physically in the best shape of his life, and he was respected by his peers and his superiors. He wasn't the guy who tried to please everyone anymore. In fact, he didn't seem to care what anyone thought of him at all. He had his standards, for himself and for others. If you met them, fine. If you didn't, you were a waste of his time. The softness was completely gone, replaced by an unshakable, almost unnerving self-confidence. He was no longer a good guy. He was an effective man. And honestly, a part of me missed the old Liam, the goofy, sweet brother I grew up with. But I knew that guy was gone forever. He died in a barracks somewhere, clutching a phone with 5 words on the screen. This new person was who he had to become to survive. His contract wasn't super long, just a few years. But in that time, the person we knew as Liam was completely deconstructed and rebuilt from the ground up. We'd get the occasional photo he'd send, him in the desert somewhere, covered in dust, holding a rifle, looking completely at ease. Him standing with his squad, and he was clearly the one in charge. Not because of the stripes on his sleeve, but because of the way he held himself. The others looked at him with respect. He never smiled in any of the pictures. Not a real smile anyway. Sometimes the corner of his mouth would be turned up in a slight smirk, but his eyes were always like ice. The day he was due to come home for good, there was this weird energy in our house. My mom was excited, cooking all his favorite foods. My dad was proud, telling all his friends his son was coming back a decorated soldier. I was nervous. I was happy he was coming home safe, of course, but I had no idea who was actually going to walk off that train. Would he be the cold, efficient man from the phone calls? Or would being home soften him up again? Would I get my old brother back? We drove to the same train station. It was a bright, sunny afternoon, the complete opposite of the day he left. It felt like a lifetime ago. I was a different person, and I knew he was too. We stood there on the platform, waiting. My mom was bouncing on the balls of her feet with excitement. The train pulled in with a loud hiss of brakes. The doors opened. People started trickling out. Families were reuniting, hugging, crying. We were scanning the crowd, looking for him. And then I saw him. He was one of the last people to get off. He stepped down from the carriage, and his eyes immediately found us. The physical change was staggering. He'd left as a tall, lanky kid who hunched his shoulders. He returned as a man who seemed to be carved out of granite. His shoulders were broad, his back was ramrod straight. He was wearing simple jeans and a plain t-shirt, but they fit him in a way clothes never had before. His arms were thick with muscle. He moved with a purpose. Every step was deliberate, no wasted motion. His face was the biggest change. It was leaner. The boyish softness was gone, replaced by sharp angles. He had a short, military-style haircut. And his eyes, they were the same color, but they were different. They were calm, observant, and completely unreadable. He walked towards us. My mom ran to him, throwing her arms around him. "Oh, Liam, you're home." He hugged her back, a firm, one-armed embrace. He patted her on the back. "Hi, Mom." His voice was low and steady. He shook my dad's hand. "Dad, good to see you." Then he looked at me. He gave me that tiny half-smile I'd seen in the photos. "Hey, Liz." I hugged him, and it was like hugging a statue. He was solid. "Welcome home, Fwop," I said. He just nodded. The emotional, tearful reunion my mom had imagined was not happening. This was a calm, orderly return. The first few weeks he was back were an adjustment period for all of us. It was like a stranger was living in our house. A polite, quiet, and incredibly disciplined stranger. He'd wake up at 5 a.m. every single day, no alarm needed. He'd go for a run, then come back and do a workout in the garage that left him drenched in sweat. His room, which used to be a chaotic mess of clothes and books, was now spotless. His bed was made with military precision. Everything had a place. He ate what was put in front of him without complaint. He helped around the house without being asked. He was the perfect son on paper, but the warmth was gone. Conversations with him were strange. He wouldn't engage in gossip. He didn't watch mindless TV. If you asked him a question, he'd give you a direct, concise answer. My mom would try to chat with him about neighborhood news, And he'd just nod politely, clearly not listening. But if my dad asked him about his future plans, he'd lay out a detailed 5-year strategy covering education, career, and finances. He was focused, he had a mission, and the mission was building his new life. Everything else was just noise. He wasn't sad or depressed. He just operated on a different frequency now, the frequency of logic and purpose. Emotion was a variable he had eliminated from his equations. The old Liam was gone. I accepted it. This new Liam was someone I respected, even if I didn't fully understand him. He was solid, dependable. You knew he would never break. He'd spent years forging himself into a man who could never be hurt like that again. The inevitable finally happened about a month after he got back. Some of our old high school friends had organized a get-together at a local bar, a welcome home thing for Liam. I had to practically drag him to go. He hated stuff like that. "It's an inefficient use of time, sir," he said. "It's called having a social life," I shot back. He eventually agreed, probably just to get me to stop bothering him. We got to the bar. It was loud, crowded. A few people came up to shake his hand, thank him for his service. He was polite, nodded, said a few words, and then found a quiet booth in the back. I sat with him. We were just talking about some course he was planning on taking, and then the door opened. In walked Madison. She was with a couple of girls I vaguely recognized. She looked good, I guess. The same as always. Confident, smiling, the center of her own little universe. She didn't see us at first. She was laughing, scanning the crowd. Then her eyes swept over our corner of the bar. They passed over Liam, then snapped back. I watched her face. It was a fascinating sequence of micro-expressions. First, confusion. Is that? Second, recognition. Oh my God, it is. Third, and this was the most important one, reassessment. She wasn't looking at the goofy, adoring boy she'd dumped via text. She was looking at the man sitting across from me, the one with the perfect posture, the cold, steady gaze, the aura of quiet confidence that filled the space around him. Her smile faltered. Her eyes widened slightly. I could practically hear the gears turning in her head, the calculation. The boy she threw away had somehow transformed into a prize, and she wanted it. She said something to her friends and started walking towards our table. She put on her old smile, the one that used to make Liam melt. "Oh my God, Liam, I can't believe it's you." Her voice was high and syrupy sweet. Liam had been watching the game on the TV above the bar. He didn't even flinch. He slowly, and I mean slowly, turned his head and looked at her. He didn't smile. He didn't scowl. His expression was completely blank. He looked at her for about 2 seconds. It wasn't a look of anger or hatred. It was the look you give a piece of furniture you don't recognize. A look of complete, emotionless assessment. Then, just as slowly, he turned his head back to the TV. The dismissal was so total, so absolute, it was like a physical slap in the face. Madison was stunned. She was used to being the center of every man's attention. This was not in her script. She forced a nervous laugh. Wow, okay. Not even a hello? She reached out and put her hand on his arm. A familiar, manipulative gesture. "You look amazing," she purred. "The army was really good to you." Without taking his eyes off the screen, Liam reached up with his left hand, calmly took her fingers, lifted her hand off his arm, and placed it back at her side as if he were moving a chess piece. He still hadn't said a single word to her. Now she was starting to get flustered. Her little performance was failing. Her voice got a little sharper. "Seriously, Liam? You're going to be like this? After all this time?" He still didn't look at her. He just took a calm sip of his beer. I was just sitting there, watching this unfold. It was like watching a nature documentary, a predator trying to use its old tricks on a creature that had evolved beyond them. She tried one last time, her voice taking on a whiny, pleading tone. "I've thought about you, you know. I made a mistake." At that, Liam finally moved. He turned his head again, but this time he looked at me. "Are you finished with your drink?" he asked, his voice completely normal. I nodded, speechless. "Good. Let's go." He stood up, pulled a 20 from his wallet, and dropped it on the table. He walked towards the exit without a single glance in her direction. He didn't hate her. He didn't want revenge. She simply didn't exist to him anymore. She was irrelevant, a ghost from a past life he'd long since forgotten. I got up and followed him, and as I passed Madison, I saw her face. It was a mixture of disbelief, humiliation, and for the first time, genuine regret. She finally understood exactly what she had lost. We didn't talk about it on the drive home. There was nothing to say. We got back, and I went to my room. About an hour later, my phone buzzed. It was a message from a number I didn't have saved, but I knew who it was. It was Madison. It was a long, rambling paragraph. "Lisa, please, you have to talk to me. I know we haven't talked in a while, but we used to be such good friends. I was stupid and young. I made the biggest mistake of my life. Seeing him tonight, I realized he's the man I've always wanted. I love him. I know he still loves me deep down. Please, just talk to him for me. Tell him I'm sorry. Tell him I'll do anything." I read the message twice. I thought about that train station. I thought about the phone call, his voice breaking. I thought about the tear-stained letters. I thought about the months he spent in agony, asking me what he did wrong while his drill sergeant screamed in his ears. I thought about the boy she had broken, and the man he had been forced to become in his place. She didn't love him. She loved the idea of him now. She loved the strength she saw. She wanted the prize she had thrown away when it was still just a lump of coal. I closed the message. I went to her contact info. I pressed the button that said block this caller. A confirmation popped up. "Are you sure?" I pressed block, and I felt nothing but a quiet sense of peace. The last loose end had been tied up. I picked up my phone and sent a short text to Liam. She messaged me. I handled it. A few seconds later, my phone buzzed with his reply. One single character. Plus, affirmative. Mission complete.